Trenton 365 with Jacque Howard. Profiling the businesses, organizations, and people that make Trenton better.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Trenton 365 show. I'm your host, Jacque Howard. You're watching over WPHY Channel 25, covering all of Mercer County, New Jersey, and you're listening over WIMG 1300, New Jersey's oldest radio station, and the two-time Stellar Award station as well. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, WIMG 1300. The Trenton 365 show has a Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at Trenton365 and the website, Trenton365.com. Lots of information to get out to you, but before we do that, I want to make sure that everyone understands the importance of today being Election Day. Now, regardless of what your political affiliations are or whether or not you choose to vote for either one of these candidates or someone else, exercise your vote. Many people of all different backgrounds have lived, died, and sacrificed for this opportunity for us, those of us who are here to vote. That goes for men, women, and children who are 18 years old. So please exercise your right to vote. Now in the studio with me is Angeline, Dean, and Princess Hoagland. These ladies I've been spending a great deal of time with the last several months, going over lots of different things about community organizing here in the capital city of New Jersey. And we're going to get into all those details. But like I always like to do with my guests, I'd like for them to introduce themselves and then for them to tell a little bit of information about who they are, a little teaser, because 60 minutes isn't enough time for you to get a full scope of who they are and what they're doing, especially these two beautiful women. So Princess and Angeline, either one of you step up and introduce yourselves and give a little background about your history.
Hi, my name is Princess Hoagland, and I'm a lifelong resident of Trenton, New Jersey. And I really want to become more involved in my community, something that I had hesitated in doing previously. But now I just feel this heavy desire to be more civically involved.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Good evening, and thank you for having me, Mr. Jacque Howard.
Always.
Angeline Dean. I'm here today representing the Citizens Campaign, facilitator of the Citizens Campaign. Here in the city of Trenton, I also have a nonprofit known as My Eternal Family. I'm an organizer, activist, liaison, empowerment specialist, whatever you want to call me that has anything to do with making our communities better, providing holistic opportunities for barriers to be dismantled and our people to be transformed along with our communities. That's who I am.
And I think that's perfect that Princess, you went first, and Angeline, you followed up with that great introduction. So throughout this interview, this conversation that we're going to have, we're going to be jumping back and forth, talking about lots of different things, how people can be civically engaged. Mm-hmm. But as a community organizer, and I get this all the time when people say, you're a community organizer, like it's some sort of a buzzword nowadays. Can you just explain a bit more about what does it mean to be a community organizer?
Sure. Actually, what it really means is somebody who's willing to go in the trenches, somebody who's willing to spend time in the community with the people, someone who's willing to build relationships all throughout the community and then begin to organize to create what we all, another buzzword, that movement, right? Mm-hmm. So that movement that creates change, empowers people, educates people, and like I always say, dismantles barriers, dismantles mindsets, creates a shift, and then not only just creates a shift, but makes things happen, creates change, transforms. So,
And when people hear those buzzwords, movement, community organizer, I think oftentimes they get this idea in their mind like people going in trying to be disruptive or trying to break things. Well, it's not always about that. If a system is in place that creates a disenfranchisement of the people who are in that community, then of course, then we've got to look at those issues and say, well, maybe there needs to be some changes, etc. But there's often times where there's positive things that are taking place, and community organizers come in and help galvanize the people and share that information as well. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I agree with you. There are, and that's a major part of being an organizer. You have to know when it's time, and if it's time to disrupt, because sometimes you do have to. But then, as Princess and I are here today representing the Citizens Campaign, there's another side to this. I don't really call it advocacy too much, because advocacy and organizing I kind of put together, because you have to know when to do what. But what I like about the campaign is we also train how to take that no blame approach and create solutions, civically minded solutions that, again, a community organizer going into that community listens to the heartbeat of the community, listens to the voices of the community. I don't come in here and try to tell you what you're going to do in your community, right? So that's not an organizer, that's a dictator. So with the trust, that's what we do. So we also teach from a no blame approach, and I think it's awesome to be able to know how to flip flop and to do both.
Great, and we're going to get into the Trenton Civic Trust in a moment, but Angeline, I want to stick with you. Give a little bit of background about what the Citizens Campaign is, a little history about the organization, and then we'll transition that right into the Trenton Civic Trust.
Sure. So the Citizens Campaign is a nonpartisan organization that actually goes into communities, hears what the everyday citizens of or residents of that community or people that work in that community want to do to make their city better. So we operate off of 3 principles. It must be solutions oriented, it must be cost effective, and it must benefit the community as a whole. And then in doing those 3 things, it must also take on, like I said before, that no blame approach.
Mm-hmm. And regarding the no blame approach, and I'd like for you to give an example of that. And for the folks who are listening and watching, oftentimes when people go in, organizations go in, it's very much, there's a lot of emotion and a lot of passion and a lot of finger pointing. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that I like about the Trenton Civic Trust, as well as the Citizens Campaign, is that it is the no blame approach, meaning, okay, we're recognizing where we are as a community, recognizing our history, but we're coming together in the present time to say, okay, we understand all the different moving parts here, but let's talk about it. And let's come to some sort of a solution where we can all benefit, and it's going to work better for us that way. Because most of us know that if you're put in a situation where someone is pointing a finger,
Yes.
For whatever reason, more than likely you're going to shut down. And if you're in a position of power, when you shut down, that means nothing changes and nothing improves, which is one of the reasons why I'm supportive of what the Citizens Campaign has done in the past and what we're going to be doing in the very near future with the Trenton Civic Trust. As I transition this over to the lovely Princess Hoagland, who is we're going to call you the co-facilitator of the Trenton Civic Trust.
Right.
Excellent. So in the opening, you mentioned that you're more civically engaged now, and you've got aspirations to be even more civically engaged.
Right.
Talk about how you got to this point.
You know, I've been inspired by some really terrific people, and one of them is sitting here to my right. I first met Angeline at an event where it was for an expungement event, and I was representing another organization, UMA, Urban Mental Health Alliance. And what I saw Angeline do, she was a take charge person. She had everything organized and made sure everyone was in his or her place. But I saw in her that desire to help people, and I just was so moved by what she was doing and what the community was doing at large, lawyers coming in and helping people understand what their rights are or whether or not they were they qualified for expungement. Then later on, I saw Angeline at another meeting. It was the Trenton Neighborhood Restoration Committee meeting. And after that meeting, Angeline pulled me aside and told me about the Citizens Campaign and that I should visit one of the Trenton Civic Trust meetings, and that's how I got involved with it. So I'm really happy to have met her on those 2 occasions, because it's people like her that get people like me motivated to do more and to find out more about what we can do to help ourselves.
And I like how you put that as well, because the welfare mentality works multiple ways, but one of the ones that I've been sharing is the people who want a hand out, but also the people who want to give a hand out and say, keep those people in that situation where they are. Not necessarily saying we want to improve everyone together and share the same information with everyone. Let's just give them a little bit over here so they stay in their particular place. And I know that that's something that we've talked about happening here in Trenton, because Mercer County is a very wealthy community, a very wealthy county. New Jersey is a very wealthy state. And oftentimes when you have pockets of poverty, or whatever that poverty looks like, whether it's incarceration, mass incarceration, sexism, classism, any of those different things taking place, oftentimes there's other surrounding communities that want to keep that in a very isolated situation. So that's why when I talk about the welfare mentality, it's not the traditional meaning. It's the meaning of people wanting to say, okay, I'm going to help those people, but as long as those people stay where they are.
Right.
And just to piggyback off of that a little bit, that whole hand out, I also have the mentality of the people that you're talking about. I see that nucleus of people here, and I think that's what drives me the most. They're not so much looking for a hand out, they're looking for a hand up. And so it's up to incumbent upon people like ourselves to go in and help pull them up. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Sometimes they just don't know how. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. And so people like us sitting around this table that have the resources, that's all they need. They just need that help to say, you know what, if you could show me how to do this, then I can do this. I don't always need you to give me something, or I don't need you to give me $1, and I get annoyed when people think in that type of manner that, and those people, who are those people,
Exactly.
We all a paycheck away. I say it all the time. Paycheck, anything can happen at any given point in time. And so when I think about that, I say in the office, the neighborhood became the hood when we stopped becoming neighbors, right? So who is your neighbor, and what is your neighbor, right? So if she's my neighbor and I know she's looking to do what she was looking to do, become more involved, then I am responsible, because she is my neighbor, because she is my sister, to say, here, come here, I'm gonna show you how to do this. And she took the ball, she took the baton, and now she's the co-facilitator.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So that's how it works. Each one reach one, and that's how you build a movement.
Exactly. And coming from a faith perspective, we always talk about the good news, those of us who are Christians, talk about sharing the good news and the gospel, what that actually means and what it looks like, because that's what started that whole movement. I mean, Christ was technically a community organizer.
That's right.
And so it behooves us to start thinking about some of those principles that he taught, and some of those principles that he shared, and how can we embark on that, and how can we actually make those changes in modern day society and do the same thing. And I love when you said the hood became the hood when we took the neighbor out of it.
The neighborhood became the hood when we stopped being neighbors.
There we go.
And so many times, though, even in that, we don't know why we stopped. People don't understand why we stopped becoming neighbors. It wasn't because I don't like my neighbor. It was because of those things, those issues that started coming about, those policies that started coming about, that pulled the father out of the house, those policies that came about that didn't bring the resources into the city, those policies that came about that when we look at Horizon Healthcare, and now we got to say, we got to fight now for this and fight now for that. And, it's just so much that is compounded in people's lives today. So, again, I don't want anybody to think I'm saying that in a negative manner, because there's so many things that's thrown at us all. Distractions, I call them, but they're real life. They're real,
Yes. So, Princess, connecting with Angeline and being in a situation where you wanted to be more actively involved in how the community where you lived, you and your family lived, what does it feel like now to be someone who's actually leading the organization of citizens here in Trenton who feel like-minded who are like-minded and think the same way and feel the way that you do? How does that feel to be leading that organization now?
Well, I never thought about it as leading. Facilitating, just making sure things happen and people, I guess, help them get access to resources. Okay, I don't know about leading, but I just hope that, what I hope to be able to do is to let people know that we all have to start somewhere. I'm learning. I'm a babe in this, even though I'm in my 50s. I'm learning how to do it, because I never thought that I needed to be involved. I always looked to somebody else to take care of that. You know, it will get better. I don't know how it's going to get better. Those who know how to do it will do it. And I just vote. That was my only part in it, I felt. But knowing that I do have a responsibility to know what people I elect are supposed to do and hold them accountable. That's where I am now, and I can't for the life of me tell you why I didn't feel like this before. I just didn't feel it. I just didn't feel a part, that I had a say, that I had a voice. I think that other people feel the way I do. We just don't know how to do it. Civics was not taught in school. We took social studies, but I don't know how government works. And what the citizen campaign does, it helps teach you how it works. And just like you said, it behooves you to just go out there and find out more about it. They give you the basics, but find out more, especially for your area, for Trenton. I need to know who my council people are. Before, I never knew. I had no idea what their role was. And I'm just hoping now that we have the internet and the city of Trent has a website, but I hope that they do more of a push and contact people through Facebook, through emails, or whatever it may be, even if we are able to sign up on the website to give our email addresses so that we are informed when those civic meetings, those council meetings are taking place. I just feel that we all should be involved, and if we are invited in and made to feel a part of it, we want to participate. I just feel that most of us do want to participate.
Mm-hmm. And I have to interject here. You may not, in the current moment, feel as though you're leading, but I'm telling you, from my perspective, you are leading, and you're helping to lead me and the rest of the others in the Trenton Civic Trust as we make progress, as we identify different issues, as we come up with different solutions, as we come up with brainstorming sessions. You being a facilitator, you are leading in some capacity, and being here representing the Trenton Civic Trust, going out to the world, you are leading. So I had to just tell you that and to encourage you and say thank you, because I'm supportive of what you're doing, and I appreciate how you're doing it, and I think that you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you, Jacque.
And the mere fact, and I want to just say I agree as well, because when she was saying that, I'm like, no, honey, you are a leader. You know, you need to know that you're a leader, because if you don't see yourself as a leader, you want other people to see yourself as a leader. So it has to start with you first. And the mere fact that she talked about now that she went to a council meeting, that's taking a step. That's taking a step up. How many people in this city have never been to a council meeting or a school board meeting, or don't know who their council people are or their assembly people are? So that is moving forward. So you are a leader. We're not going to say that again.
Yeah. We won't have that happen. And if so, anybody send me an email. I'll put you in touch with her, and you can tell her that she's a leader.
Yes,
so while we're on the subject of emails and so forth, why don't you both share your contact information so that someone in the listening audience, if they'd like to chat with you more, they can reach out to you. Either one of you can go first.
Okay.
If it's Citizens Campaign related, then I'm Angeline, ANGELINE, at the Citizens Campaign, all one word, .org. If it's about any of the other work that I do, they can contact me at ANG1, Dean, my last name DEAN, at yahoo.com.
ANG1, Dean, at yahoo.com. Okay, Princess?
You can reach me at PG Hoagland. My last name is HOAGLAND at gmail.com.
Great. So this Trenton Civic Trust, let's talk about the history of that group or that committee of residents coming together in Trenton. So the Trenton Civic Trust, how was it formed? What is the Trenton Civic Trust, and how was it formed?
That came about when I came into the organization. That's where I came into the organization. I think previously you were going to a lot of the networking events, and when the shift took place and then I came on board, it was decided that we have to do more than just networking. That's not empowerment. So how can we build something that's really going to empower people? So then that's how that whole thing came about, putting the trust together and really finding like-minded individuals who wanted to transform their communities.
Mm-hmm. And as a community organizer, I want to give you kudos publicly, because when you started the networking event, you chose a location right here in the city of Trenton that was familiar to a lot of people, and it was an up-and-coming, small business, the Trenton Social, and you brought a lot of people into that organization, into that business, who hadn't known about it before. As a networking opportunity, you had wonderful speakers sharing information about what was going on with the organization, and then when it transitioned to the Trenton Civic Trust, now you've partnered with an educational institution here in the city as well, and we meet on a monthly basis, and we have a very clear set agenda. We're always inviting more people to come in, and we're taking very specific steps to address several different issues. I know for some, we won't be able to go into details now, but some of those issues deal with the Trenton Green Team and stormwater.
Campaign forms.
And correct. Stormwater and water runoff issues. We're talking about safety, not in the context of just law enforcement, but also in the context of lighting. About what are we doing as far as in our neighborhoods to making sure that the lighting is upgraded and the trees are being planted and different things of that nature. So this isn't just a political organization or political movement. This is truly a social organization that is addressing different issues that people in the neighborhoods, wherever those neighborhoods are, how they handle things. Specifically, I just want to say with Franklin Park's Northeast Block Association, where I live, we've got residents who are getting together and we're going on walks and we're identifying different things in a neighborhood. Hey, those curbs are cracked, or there's a pothole, or there's street signage that's not right, or there's lighting that needs to be addressed. And the Citizens Campaign through the Trenton Civic Trust has come up with a wonderful way of saying, hey, how do we compile all of this information and how do we get it to the proper people in the city government so that we can start addressing those issues and then starting to say, well, hey, why are we doing things the way we've been doing them for 50, 60, 70 years? Maybe it's not applicable now for us to have no stop signs. Maybe we need more stop signs. Okay, well, what do we need to do to go through the process of having a stop sign put in? Okay, well, now we realize, okay, there's a protocol for that. We've got to get the engineering department involved, and the Trenton Civic Trust and the Citizens Campaign now works together and says, okay, well, we've got lawyers on staff where we can start asking them questions. How is this done in other cities and in other communities? And we can compile that information now when we present it through leaders like Princess. When we go to City Council, now City Council can say, well, wait a minute. In comparison, all the ducks are in a row. This has been done in other parts of the city. Yeah, let's do it. Let's rubber stamp it, which is part of what we civically engage, what it all really means.
I want to say, because you're naming everybody else, but that was your baby, the neighborhood improvement plan. So I want to make sure we give you your props for that. And I don't want to take, I don't like taking credit for something that I didn't do. And that whole meeting place around networking, that was Darren Freedom Green. So I can't take that. That was something that he put together. I came on as we were transitioning out of that. But we're all of the same mindset. Again, keeping it in the city of Trenton, supporting those businesses. Even when I order food, it has to be from Trenton. We got to give back to the community. So that mindset. So I wanted to acknowledge you, and I wanted to just make a little correction.
Thank you for that. And folks, you've heard me mention Darren Freedom Green before on many occasions, and he's been a guest on the Trenton 365 show. Another wonderful person who's doing some amazing things, multi-generational family that is actively involved in improving the city of Trenton in lots of different areas, not just as a community organizer, but the faith-based community, being connected in politics as well. I mean, big shout out to Darren Freedom Green.
My partner in My Eternal Family.
Yes. And we're going to get into My Eternal Family because I know you've got some interesting news that you'd like to share that I don't even know about yet, folks. So it's going to be an exclusive here. But Princess, I want to shift things back over to you. And you had mentioned something that was very interesting to me. You mentioned that you thought, hey, I vote, I do the process, I do what I do, and that's someone else takes care of that. And for whatever reason, whether it was let's just say it was the time for you to say, well, no, I need to do a bit more than that. and then the stars aligned or whatever it was, and then you start meeting a couple people, and now you're into this flow. When you look back, and I'm not saying that it was looking back, not bad, but I mean, when you look at before you were this involved in the community, what do you see is the biggest difference from the person you are now to the person you were before you were as actively involved?
Again, I just have to say that I didn't feel that I had permission to enter.
That's good.
And it seems as though it's an elite few who get to make the decisions, who get to be invited into things, to even know what's happening. So I just feel that for some reason I'm meeting people who have had the doors open for them a little bit and is letting me peek through. So that's why I feel that, hey, maybe we all, weren't we all supposed to be able to do this? And I'm just trying to understand why the doors were closed or are closed to most of us. I'm not quite understanding why that is. And I don't want to make assumptions. I know what I might feel, but it may be because of my naivete that I feel this way. Maybe there's a real good reason, but I'm just trying to find that out. I'm on a journey.
So I'm not often speechless, as one can imagine, but I am a bit now, because you said some things that were very interesting. The feeling of not necessarily knowing that you could be a part of this process. And in my mind, I'm thinking, what went wrong culturally where someone involved who's born and raised in a community wasn't fully encouraged to be involved in the process of the community where they live? And, I get a chance to travel all over, and I often tell people, if I would not be able to go from my city and go to another city and tell them how to do what they would do. So why is it okay for someone to come from another city into Trenton and tell Trentonians what they should do without listening, without hearing what they're doing? And I think that there's some sort of a connect between that and what you just said. The fact that you're born and raised Trentonian, you've gone through the process of life, you've got a family, you're functioning in society, you voted, you do vote, you're doing all these wonderful things. How come no one tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, this is how this is done, and why don't we just share more about how that process works, so that you could have maybe have experienced this when you were in grade school, or I could have, instead of being 40 years old and just getting into the process of it.
If I can just interject a little bit on that, because I loved when you said, I didn't feel as though I had permission to enter in. That's powerful, but that's bondage, right? And so in hearing what you just said in relation to what she just said takes me back to Ferguson. And I heard the same thing there. When I was working with the young people down there, I heard the same, and the adults, the same thing. And sometimes, yes, it's those people coming in telling you what you should be doing without listening. But let's also be real. Sometimes it benefits those people in power for you not to be able to peek in. It benefits sometimes those people in power for you not to know. And then sometimes it's generational, right? So when I look at, or when I sat and had conversations with my youth down there, who are doing wonderful things now they're taking over their city. But listening to them speak, their grandmother didn't do it. Their grandfather didn't do it. Their parents didn't do it. So when everything broke out and broke loose, they were the ones that said, not another generation. I'm not doing this. And many of them, it cost them their families. Many of them were ready to die for this. Many of them went to jail, were beaten. They paid the cost. But they said, we have to do this so that our kids, the next generation, doesn't stay in bondage how we are in bondage now. But I think we have to look at, also, it benefits people. It lines some pockets for us not to be able to peek inside. So
we're going to talk about that a bit more at the break. Folks, you're listening and watching the Trenton 365 show over WIMG 1300, as well as WPHY Channel 25. Archives of this and other interviews are on the website Trenton365.com. We'll be back after a short break.
Hey there, travelers. You going somewhere? Need a hotel? Then call Hotel Whiz anytime, day or night, for rates too low to publish. You can save up to 75% on over 500,000 hotels across the globe and get our best price guarantee with no booking or cancellation fees ever. We've got some of the lowest hotel prices you'll find in New York, Chicago, Las Vegas, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and a lot more. Don't waste your time surfing for deals. Make a free call right now and find deals too low to publish. Save up to 75% right now with no cancellation fees. And to make it even easier on you, we're here 24/7 to help. So call right now. Bookmark us in your cell phone. Whatever you need to do, just pick up the phone and call this number for hotel deals that'll knock your socks off.
800-590-1163. 800-590-1163. 800-590-1163. 800-590-1163.
Tune in every Sunday afternoon at 3:05 and every Tuesday evening at 10:05 for the Crossroads broadcast of the New Holy Cross Church, where Bishop Willie J. Jones is pastor, only on 1300 WIMG.
Have you ever needed help and not known where to find it? For more than a century, Catholic Charities Diocese of Trenton has been offering assistance to people of all faiths in central New Jersey. We envision a world where all people reach their full potential, achieve self-sufficiency, and live in a just, compassionate society. Our services include help with rent or utilities payments, financial counseling, family and individual counseling, substance abuse treatment, and domestic abuse prevention and treatment. For more information about our broad array of services, please visit us at www.catholiccharitiestrentton.org or call us at 1-800-642-0218.